Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Okay, welcome to Conversations with Annassa. So let's start out with meditation. Take your attention inside. And as you inhale, feel yourself surrounded by pranic plasma, the most healing substance in the universe, in the multiverse. Pure, raw love. It's available to every living being. And we take it in through the breath. Also imagine that you are surrounded by every person you have ever loved who has ever loved you, and the love field that's been created from that. So as you sit and breathe, you're breathing in love. And as you exhale, you're exhaling everything that needs to be released, everything that is not founded in love. Gently clearing our system of any heaviness and dissonance. As you breathe, feel yourself becoming more and more a sponge full of pure, raw love. Every cell becomes filled with this love. All the spaces between the cells. Every breath. From the lightest part of us to the densest part of us. So we feel that in investing every part of our body all the way out to our fingertips and all the way down to the tips of our toes. We become nothing but pure raw love. And now imagine a tiny being the size of a thumb in the center of your heart, in the center of your chest. This being is sitting on a lotus, and as we look more closely, we see that it is ourself in its most refined and realized state. Gently breathe into this divine being and allow it to begin to expand inside your body. as you merge with your highest self, your highest realized self, and allow it to expand to become one with you in this moment. Now allow yourself to expand to encompass the entire room that you're sitting in. And now allow it to expand to encompass the entire neighborhood you're sitting in. So you can feel that your neighborhood is inside of you. And now expand to encompass your entire city. Gently allow yourself to expand to encompass the entire earth. And now expand to encompass the entire solar system. And now allow yourself to encompass the entire universe. and the vast multiverse. Everything that is within you. Now gently allow your field of perception to get a bit smaller. Come into the universe. The solar system. The earth. And when you get to the room, stop. Allow yourself to encompass the entire room. And look at the person sitting in meditation who began this journey. And reach your ethereal hand down to touch the top of the head of the person you are. And gently pour this vast love into the physical body as you experience love loving itself. Gently reunite. And when you're ready, you can shift your attention and we'll begin the question and answer part of our program. So happy to be with you today. How may we serve? Hmm. Hmm. We don't mind silence.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, this is Pam, and with an update. First, the last 2 weeks have been for me a chance to do the meditation of opening up on the inhale to pure love and releasing any contraction on the exhale. And this is wherever I am. I've been doing this, and so many things have been falling into place and being a blessing. Um, the one tough knot has been estrangement from our daughter. And it seemed impossible. Well, I felt it was not possible for me to do anything directly to promote uh, any kind of reconnection. And then day before yesterday, a car pulls into the driveway and she gets out of the car. And we haven't seen each other for 4 years. It was gentle, loving, and we spent the whole day together, the three of us, um, catching up and being loving with each other. And I just wanted to say thank you. I feel it's a direct result of your transmissions and my willingness to let go of any negative thoughts about why or how could this be, anything not even particularly harsh, but just in the way of feeling completely open to the new a new way, a shift. We acknowledged her for being so brave, and um, I wanted to acknowledge this, what we do on Sundays, for making it possible. And so thank you, everyone, and you especially.
Mm, so glad to hear this report. You know, we noticed as you came online this morning that there was a glow around you that we haven't seen before, and chalked it up to the lighting. And now we know why we're seeing that glow. There has been an enormous change. This is so beautiful to hear your report. We're so delighted for this. So your life has become more full of its flow. This is so beautiful. Thank you so much for telling us. So moving. And so complex and simple at the same time. How very beautiful. We celebrate with you.
Thank you.
How may we serve further? Yes.
Good morning. Can you speak to ways to understand and reduce the power of the inner critic? Mine is incredibly powerful. Ho'oponopono is helpful, but I could use some more input on this. Thank you.
Okay, so the question is how to reduce the power of the inner critic. The inner critic is not your friend, is not your enemy. The inner critic is actually your friend. And so it's important to allow this voice and invite it to tea. And really ask what the motivation is behind this criticism. Really investigate. This is the essence of a practice called self-inquiry. Self-inquiry is when you sit and you ask to know the truth of yourself. And so this invites, first of all, the inner critic. But then you go deeper. You know, what is the source of that critic? Then what is the source of the source of the source? And what is the source of the source of the source of the source? Until you get to love itself. And when you understand that everything, and the reason we encompass everything is because it's all love. There is nothing that's not love. So the inner critic is a part of you that feels like a distortion. We all have it. This voice that reminds us of who we're not, or of how far we're falling short of who we want to be. So we can say thank you. And then examine further. The parts of ourselves that we want to push away are the parts of ourselves that we need to invite to the table. Because they have the information that we need to become a better person. It doesn't mean that they're right or wrong. It means that they are food for our examination. And most of the time we will discover that our inner critic is a product of our matrix of belief that we haven't dealt with yet. And so it's an invitation to go deeper inside ourselves. The parts of us we would like to silence are the parts of us that we need to welcome into our awareness. Because of course, everything exists within us. So why should we be surprised when we discover any of it? It's all there. Everything from ecstatic union with the divine to homicidal rage. We all have all of it. And we, no one else, we get to choose which parts of it we express. And that is our responsibility. And the reason we say to make friends with all of it is because whatever we don't befriend tends to be what kicks us when we're not looking. It'll just like jump out of us, completely unbidden. Because that which is denied assumes a life of its own. And so when we use our energetic awareness to embrace all parts of ourselves with love, we gently defang the critic because we know it well. We have welcomed it into our awareness, into our consciousness, and let it have its say. As painful as that is, it's so much less painful than having it explode in our life in front of us, which is the alternative. Things denied tend to get acted out. It's not exactly that simple, but in a way it is exactly that simple. It's not particularly linear, so it's not that we can see it coming. But we rise by that which we fall. And by falling, we mean that which we are able to embrace and in that embracing, we refine who we are. And how we see the world. Because you can not acknowledge your own humanity without entering into the realm of compassion for others. Because when you experience your own raw anger, it changes how you regard raw anger in another person. Because you know that exists within you. And so you have compassion rather than reaction. Because you know how difficult it is to sit with that. And turn it into love. You know exactly what that takes in yourself because you've done it. That is where compassion comes from. So you can see in engaging your own resistance to dealing with the darkness within you, you are actually engaging the resistance of the whole because your understanding grows as the love within you gets stronger and stronger and stronger by your increasing awareness and your increasing capacity to attract more love into your life. So when you understand someone else's actions as not yet having the awareness to turn everything into love, your own compassion arises. And we begin to even stop judging those who didn't realize the limitation in what they were teaching us when we were given our matrix of belief. We understand that they were trying to protect us and teach us survival skills from the perspective of the world that they inherited. Can you imagine the possibility of teaching our children love from the moment they arrive? This is where we're headed. To a matrix of belief where human life is actually appreciated and sustainable and joy. And that cultivation happens within each of us. It is our responsibility to become that. And in becoming that, it transforms our own world and gently begins to transform the world of everyone our life touches. We hope that answers your question. How may we serve further? Brenda? We're so happy to be here with you. Suzanne,
Good morning. You hear
good
me?
morning. How are you?
Better and better.
You look wonderful.
Thank you. I something about the term self-inquiry and going deeper and deeper and deeper really caught my attention. And so I think I'd like to know a little bit more about that business of going deeper, what the process is, how I can help myself to do that.
Well, we've been thinking a lot about self-inquiry lately. Ramana Maharshi is really the great Indian saint who spoke of self-inquiry. And when he was 16 years old, he had an experience where he looked in a mirror and he kept saying over and over, "Who am I? Who am I? Who am I?" And the various sheaths of the personality of the being broke down in front of him, and he went through a death and rebirth experience on the spot at the age of 16.
Hmm.
And from that moment forward, he left some weeks later, he left his home and went to the mountain called Arunachala. And he lived there his entire life.
Hmm.
And for at least 3 decades, he meditated in a cave, in various caves there. And then he finally moved to a space that was sort of on the outside of the mountain, and an ashram grew up around him of people who wanted to participate in his field.
Hmm.
And so the practice that he taught was self-inquiry. And the beauty of self-inquiry is that you can do it about anything, because there is nothing that is not source energy.
Hmm.
So you can do it with a simple question like, what's important to me? What's important to me? And you keep going deeper and deeper in yourself as you ask this question. And you can write down your answers when you do it by yourself. And then sometimes it's very informative to do it with another person. And you ask the other person to be completely non-judgmental and non-reactive to any of your responses. They just hold a space for you. And you can take a question like, who am I? And have them just say, who are you? And you respond. And then they say again, who are you? And you'll have a different response. And then, who are you? And you just keep going. And it can take you to amazing places within yourself. So you can do it alone or you can do it with another. Both are quite revealing.
Yeah.
It's revealing as you allow yourself to be revealed.
Yeah.
And so it's a worthwhile practice in uncovering your motivations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I look forward to trying it.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
it's worthwhile.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Mhm.
How do you maintain hope in such trying times?
Well, our first response would be consider the alternative. hope Hmm. Hope. The alternative is despair. So we meant it when we said consider the alternative. Where does despair take you? We would call that a downward spiral. And that downward spiral leads to more of same. And hope is an upward spiral that leads to more of same. Which feeling would you rather entertain in yourself? Which feeling is going to take you where you ultimately want to go? So hope. Hope is the beginning of being in touch with our source of inspiration. You know, all times in history have been trying. If you read history, there is not a time that people write about that was not trying, that didn't feel like lives were in danger and matrix of belief was false. We can read history and discover that all times have been like that. Now, in perspective, in retrospective especially, it seems like when things were slower and the world was a bigger place, we didn't know what was happening on the other side of it instantly. That maybe things were not so difficult. Well, what we would say is that they were equally difficult, but maybe not so complex. That the complexity in our awareness, just because of the pure amount of information that we are exposed to, even if we try to limit it, the amount of information that comes in is daunting. But we can manage that by setting aside times for that and setting aside times for quiet. Quiet is really, really important to be able to center ourselves and choose love. Love, peace, joy, and gratitude are the four states that point toward that which is beyond. That which is beyond language. We live in a three-dimensional, essentially linear reality in our daily life. Because the nonlinear very quickly expands beyond our capacity to express in language. And the field of being, of beingness, is nonlinear. And therefore, we can only point to it with words like love, peace, joy, and gratitude. And hope is the beginning of all of those four. And at various times, different ones of those four are more and less accessible to us. Very often, gratitude is accessible, especially if we get in the habit of being grateful for all the benefit that comes into our life. You know, every sip of liquid and every bite of food is a gift from our environment to our own sustainability. And so cultivating appreciation and gratitude is a worthy practice to get us in touch with the value of our inner cultivation. So we would say this is really what the question about hope and despair is about: how to cultivate love, peace, joy, and gratitude. Peace is the time that we turn everything off in our environment and go deeply inside to just feel. And if it's been a while since we've turned our attention inside to just feel, then of course the first thing we're going to feel is complaints from all the parts that haven't been acknowledged for a while. And it's sort of like if you haven't tended to a part of yourself, it will start to complain. So this paying attention inside is how we demonstrate our self-respect with a capital S, our respect for that which is greater than our three-dimensional reality, that which exists within us that we wish to cultivate. So meditation is our self-respect with a capital S, putting our attention into the deepest parts of ourselves. And as we begin to cultivate the depth of our own love, then it becomes more about that and less about hope. Because real spiritual work is the work of finding love. It begins with seeking. But having found any access point, then it's about expansion. And then it's about flow. It's about feeling what comes in and what goes out in this field. Ultimately, we are all a field of light being, energetic light being. And there is continuous input and continuous output. We are both receivers and generators. And as we go deeper into our experience of awareness itself, it begins to go beyond language. And then there's flow. And we can most easily connect to the experience of flow by following our breath. The breath is the union of the spiritual and the material. It's the junction point. And this experience of the vastness within can be had readily by focusing on the space in between the breaths. So you breathe in and you drop your attention into that space. That space is where meditation begins. We hope that answers your question. And generates a few more. Okay.
Is there a difference between the witness state and self-inquiry?
Well, that's not really a yes or no question. Is there a difference between the witness state and self-inquiry? Self-inquiry is, of course, one of the ways to cultivate the witness state, because self-inquiry engenders in the person practicing it the capacity to just witness whatever arises and say it, and continuously go deeper in that experience without judgment. And that is what the witness state is. And it's a beautiful, beautiful practice. You can use any question and take it very, very deeply in yourself. And you'll find the experience like dropping a stone in a still water pond. The ripples just go out and out and out and out as you allow yourself to go deeper and deeper inside and discover the source of motivation of anything that crosses your field, your inner field. Oh, why do I think that? How interesting. This is the witness state. To see and feel without judgment. We hope that answers your question. Yes. No? We love your questions.
Yes.
Good. Mm. Mhm.
Can you talk about ways to protect our energy or the energy coming at us, especially from those that we must engage with?
So the question is, we'll rephrase it a little bit. How do we protect ourselves from people with strong energetic fields that we feel might be harmful for us to interact with? Is that
That works.
okay? So the first thing is to understand that we can't exactly protect ourselves. We are a permeable field. And if we set up a barrier that doesn't allow anything in, then we're in isolation. We're no longer in communication with another person. And so that's not really possible if we have to interact with someone. So having that understanding, the thing that we can cultivate within ourselves, knowing that we're with a difficult energetic experience, which usually means a person that doesn't really understand the nature of their own interactions with others. So we first understand that we're coming into contact with a person who doesn't understand themselves, let alone another. And so just having that bit of awareness allows us to say, okay, this is a field where there's a wild card at play. Anything can happen, right? We can get hurt in this field. So what is it that hurts us? What's hurts us is when we take in information from someone else about ourselves that we really don't want to hear. That's generally what hurts us. So if we understand that the source of the information is faulty to begin with, that it might not be a reflection, a true reflection of who we are, And that knowing on the front side that this is likely to happen, that we will get information about ourselves that we won't think is true, and it will make us want to react in a way that fights back. So we know that's going to happen in this situation. It's set up for that to happen. So we know that on the front side. So the first thing we do before we go into that field is that we take our attention deeply in our bodies, below our belly button. So we are grounded. If we allow our attention to rise above our heart, then we're already in a near panic state. If our attention's up here, there's no place to go. If we're down here, we are completely inhabiting ourselves. We are immovable. We're like a tennis player ready to return anything. We can move in any direction. We're completely in control of our being. Our attention's right below our belly button. We're pointing, you can't really see it on the camera, but we're just below the belly button. And you hold your attention there. And from that place, we have access to every part of ourselves. And so we're not ready to run. We're ready to be present. We're ready to be present with that person, with their energy. And if we can stabilize ourselves deeply enough, we might even stabilize the other person enough that we don't get into anything that is reactive. We might actually be able to provide a stable point in that room so that the two people who are interacting from here, from inside you, which doesn't mean you control the conversation, but you control the energy from which the conversation comes within you. And that has a very calming effect on the other person, whether they know it or not. And generally in these situations, the other person may or may not have the awareness, usually not, to know what is controlling the center of the room. So there's that. And then the next stage of practice is to hold yourself in witness state so that you're not judging and reacting to everything, but just being present and seeing. So these situations generally happen with people who want to demonstrate some kind of power over us. But a person can only have power over us if we give it to them. We give away our power, and we get to choose. There is a moment of choice. Now, maybe it's a situation where you truly don't have the power. Might be a person in power that for some reason you are in service to. There is a way to allow energy to go through you without engaging it. With any energetic pattern that comes toward you from the outside, you have 90 seconds to decide whether you are going to hold on to your engagement with that energy before it becomes a reactive state in you that then requires work to divest from you. 90 seconds. So in that 90 seconds, you can decide that this has nothing to do with you and not really pick it up. Just let it go through you. We'll give you a sort of mundane example. Say you're looking out the window and a person that's very, very attractive to you walks past. You can acknowledge that attraction and smile and let it go. You can engage that attraction, pull it into yourself, and ruminate about that person for months. You can create an entire fantasy life around that experience, even though nothing happened. This is what it is to be human. You have 90 seconds to decide. And generally, the things that engage us, that pull our attention, that we begin to develop stories around, are parts of us that are not yet resolved into harmony. And we do this in various ways all the time. We pick up waves that we haven't finished within ourselves, and we work them out. Over time, we work them out. You know, it might take 20 seconds, might take 20 years. It really is up to us how long these patterns live. Sometimes we have wounds from childhood that we can't even remember because our being was not yet formed enough to process the information. And so these things take on a life of their own. Until at some point when we're an adult, we're lucky enough to be doing our inner work, and one of these pockets of undiscovered trauma might break open. And then we have information we didn't have before, which may take a while to process. But this is how we grow. So we know we went a lot further than. Did that answer the question?
Yes.
But this also takes us into self-inquiry. You know, we can ask questions like, why does this person trigger me? What is it in me that gets triggered by this person? Is there something for me to learn in this? Or can I truly just disregard the whole thing? And, you know, it's just something that I have to pass through at this time. It could be. Self-inquiry is very valuable in a situation like this because you can understand yourself more deeply. And we prefer for our own work to regard everything that we attract as something that is like medicine for us in life. You know, it's something we've attracted because we need to examine this a little bit further, or it's a gift to us to lift us up that we can't really see how that's going to happen in the moment, but here we are. How may we serve further? It's so nourishing to be with you all this morning. Anything? Andrew?
I was thinking with the gloomier weather and the sort of melancholic mood of autumn, and that thing about how it's something that I try to avoid by activity, but I'm wondering if you can speak to something about actually kind of incorporating it.
Yes. So the question is, with the gloomier weather, the cold, the wet, the dark, the gray of Portland, is there a way to incorporate that into our daily life without being reduced to melancholy? Is that so? Of course, the answer is yes, and we see you do it all the time. You know, anyone who practices any kind of art, and we all do, our life is a work of art. We weave the different flavors into the tapestry of our beingness. And certainly in your palette of music, you use it all the time. And it doesn't take you to depression at all. It's a flavor that you experience as you're passing through that particular part of the music. And you use that experience to actually transmit that feeling. And then it goes on to another one. And there's this kaleidoscope of feeling that's transmitted through the work of art. And sometimes it even transcends time and space, because art, music, dance, drama, all of these things can transcend time and space. They can actually draw on quantum experience and transmit that by transmuting these other fields of experience And then suddenly there you are in a quantum experience that's beyond our three-dimensional reality. So this is what is meant by the play of consciousness. When these experiences, like waves, which they are, come through us, but we don't grab onto them, they just keep going. They are there while we experience them. We don't attach any particular meaning to them, and they flow right through us. We don't even know that they happened. You know, we notice the sky is gray, but we don't take that grayness into our mood and become depressed. We just notice. On the other hand, if we have a sensitivity to that gray sky, we might use it. Oh, it feels melancholy out. And we can take that melancholy into the depths of ourselves, and it resonates with something in us that has not yet been resolved. That gives us the opportunity to resolve that. You see how this works? Our being is constantly informing us of that which we have not resolved. By where our attention goes, by where we are magnetized to create a state within ourselves, that is what is our work in this moment. Very simple. We can just sit still and work all day and become finer and finer and finer. Does that answer your question? So we see we've reached the time. So let's move into transmission phase. So we're going to encourage you during these next few minutes to focus on your breath and allow yourself to experience what happens in between the breaths as we begin our transmission, or say continue our transmission, but with that as the sole focus from here. So we've greatly enjoyed your questions today, greatly appreciated being with you. Take your attention inside, and you can be with this with your eyes open or closed, whichever is your preference at the moment. We will transmit with open eyes. Thank you so much for being here with us. We have so enjoyed this time. Till next week.